What does it mean to be a woman in today's world?
And why are some people so afraid of the word feminist?
She, a podcast for the non-traditional woman. I'm Tiana.
And I'm Sophie.
And we're a couple.
Join us as we break down the modern feminine experience and explore an alternative view on what it means to be a woman in today's society. Hello, my modern women, and welcome to She, an acronym for Shifting Her Experience. We're coming to you from Los Angeles, California.
Woo!
Make sure you download and rate this podcast and follow us on Instagram at Shifting Her Experience. Today we're going to chat about how we've redefined the female experience ourselves and how we define feminism.
Yeah.
I'm a feminist. Would you define yourself as a feminist, Tiana?
I think that goes without saying. I think people are so afraid to identify with this term now, though, because of the negative connotation that goes along with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think people fail to realize that there are different kinds of feminism. You know, it's not this scary term defined as women who hate men.
Scary term. Yeah, that's such a good word to describe how people feel about the word feminist. But before we unpack the word feminist and what it means in today's world, I want to shout out our Woman of the Week, Kelly Meyer. She took our podcast photos and she's out there designing her own career in LA.
Woo! Go Kelly! Okay, so let's go right into it. Why do you think some people, or even more specifically, some women, are afraid of the term feminist or don't identify themselves as a feminist?
Yeah, it really is crazy to me hearing a woman say, I'm not a feminist, which we are hearing a lot these days. I think a lot of people who end up saying that are misinformed as to what exactly it means to be a feminist.
Yeah, we've talked about
this.
Yeah,
To put it plain and simple, it is about equality of both men and women. I don't understand why someone wouldn't want that, even if you prefer your partner to take the lead, it's so much more than that. Would you want to lose out on the job you're applying for because they wanted to hire a man and you're a woman? Even though you had the same qualifications, are women who say, I'm not a feminist, are okay with that? Like, are they? Or would they be okay with that?
I mean, losing out just because you're a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Just based on your gender, yeah.
Exactly. And I understand most people who say, like, I'm not a feminist, are equating the word with this whole, I'm not this radical woman who hates men and blah, blah, blah. But, what if I told you feminism just meant being treated fairly, having the right to design your life, being the lead character in your story? Does your argument change then?
Oh, God, completely. I think their argument would definitely change,
Yeah, when you base it down to just equality.
When you ask that question.
Exactly. Of course, who would not want, equal rights? Exactly. But what's funny is actually another argument I hear often from people who are anti-feminist is that, women are not oppressed, like we have equal opportunity, which, okay, one, are you a woman of color? Are you LGBTQ+? What's your personal experience?
Yeah, you can't just assume that all women are one race, one sexuality, cisgendered. It seems such a narrow view of the privileged Western woman.
Yeah, that's so well said. I mean, what about other cultures and other countries? And just because we in North America don't have to deal with arranged marriages or not having access to education simply because you're a woman, it doesn't mean it's not going on elsewhere. So I feel like you just can't simplify the issue by saying, well, it doesn't exist in my reality, so it doesn't exist in others,
Yeah, and, another counter-argument to that I hear all the time, well, what about men's issues?
Oh my God, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and men's issues are just as valid as female issues. However, if you're only talking about men's issues when someone is talking about the female experience, then that's a problem.
Oh, for sure. So I was reading this book titled A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. And I think it is such an incredible way to talk about feminism, especially in modern day society. I think it has very valid points as to what's going on right now.
Yeah, you've told me about this book. I'm dying to read it.
Yeah, so obviously there are 15 points as to being a feminist. But Adichie mentions that one of them is to be a whole person. Don't define yourself by one role, mother, wife, career.
Yeah, it goes back to the goal for little girls to aspire to be a wife, to be a mother.
Oh my God. And wasn't that just the message growing up,
That was the message,
Even if your parents weren't like that, it surrounds you.
My parents were not like that.
Me neither.
But it surrounded me. It was just out there. It was our culture.
Well, think about what you were told as a child about what it meant to be a man or a woman, or what your parents told you, what you learned in school, whatever behaviors that you had seen around you, and this is how like a man should act, this is how a woman should act. Like, that's exactly where oppression comes from, gender roles.
Yeah, I mean, men are not oppressed based on their gender. Women are oppressed based on the fact that they are female.
Yeah, and gender roles definitely don't help. And another point in this book, actually the second point, is making existing gender roles neutral by equally sharing them. That means like in marriages, traditional marriages, let's say, where it's like a heterosexual relationship, sharing the work, domestic work, caregiving. Like, why are these always assigned to women?
They're assigned, they're assumed, you know, it's assumed that a woman will cook and clean, even if she has a job, you know. I mean, it's just assumed that the guy will come home, but he's going to be more tired than the wife who comes home from work as well and then has to cook dinner.
Well, these gender roles and stereotypes don't help at all in terms of advancing women, you know. And it's 100% okay if a woman wants to be a housewife and do the housework and take the lead in that role. Like, we're not saying that's a bad thing. You can still be a feminist and fill that role too. Yeah,
of course. Well, you know, gender roles, and it's important to know this, are learned and they're taught. It's not a given. You know, it's
not based on any truth.
No, it's not based on truth. It's never like okay to tell a child what he or she should do based on their gender, you know, like going back to certain jobs.
Yeah.
You know, because we've talked about this a lot. There are certain jobs for men and certain jobs for women. Like a boy is typically taught that driving a lorry or, you know, being a builder, things like this, they're masculine jobs. They're jobs that he can do. But if your daughter wanted to do it, it might be a concern.
Well, jobs should not be assigned to like masculinity and femininity. It should be interests of the individual. So what situations in your life affirmed your stance on being a feminist?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like so many.
Yeah, the list is endless, but specifically.
I think just mostly the fact of not being equal. So whether that's walking down the street and being catcalled,
which is so unwarranted. And
yeah, that's the thing. Men are not walking down the street getting catcalled by other men.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're not. Things like that. I feel just totally unequal.
Well, even on the topic of catcalling, I remember being 12 or 13, walking home from school, and I looked 12 or 13, and being catcalled by somebody in a truck and being so scared. Like, unless you have feared for your life, you don't understand the severity of catcalling. Like, I remember running home after that. Like, I would turn into an apartment complex and, like, book it because, like, this guy was following me.
I have heard guys being like, oh, you know, girls, chill out, like, take it as a compliment. That sort of crap. And you don't know what... Like, you feared for yourself that day.
You don't know what's going to come of it.
Unless you know what that's like, you can't comment that it's a compliment.
And is it a compliment if I'm underage? Like, exactly. Does that change?
Men have the privilege of being able to walk alone in the dark and, you know, walk down the street without getting harassed for, you know, whatever outfit they're wearing or what, you know. They have that privilege, and even at work. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago at work, I used to work for an airline as a flight attendant, and I was on a flight one day. It was a day flight, so it was bright in the cabin. I was walking, and I was walking through the cabin, and one of the passengers, this like old man, was like standing up. I walked past him, and he just felt me up.
Great. Like
completely like had a good feel there, felt all the way from my shoulders all the way down.
Oh my God, ew.
And it happened so fast, and I was so taken back and shocked. Went just back into the galley to tell my supervisor what happened, and I was like, this guy like can't get away with
this.
And
good for you for like wanting to tell your supervisor, you know.
Well, I wanted to just walk away from him, you know. So this guy and go straight into the galley where like I felt I could like shake it off almost. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And yeah, I told my male supervisor, and he was only a few years older than me, and I felt like, you know, it doesn't even matter what age, but I felt like I really could confide in him.
Maybe he could understand or help, yeah.
And I told him what happened, and he said, okay, well, next time it happens, I need you to tell him off. Like, I need you to...
Next time it happens.
Yeah, like, I want this to happen another time, you know? And I said to him, next time, like, I don't want this to happen again.
Well, this is where in situations our, like, male allies need to recognize their privilege and power and be an ally.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Turns out he wasn't much of an ally.
Clearly not.
And not a very good supervisor
If it happens
in
again.
my eyes. So yeah, if it happens again, I need you to call him out on it. I need there to be witnesses. I need the other passengers to hear you calling out.
I need witnesses. I need you to yell. I need like...
Yeah, because he said I need to write a report about this and I need witnesses. You know, I need to fill out like...
How convenient is that? Like, you know, the Cardi B thing? Like,
yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Well, I was like, no, like it's not going to happen again. And, you know, I just need you to have my back. Like, I'm not going to go out there and like try provoke him to do this again so that I can like, we can write a concrete report. Like, I just need you to have my back and support me. Like, why don't you just go out in there and talk to him? So I went to my female colleagues and I told them what happened. And they were like, oh my God, this man, he was blowing kisses at me like the whole flight. Like he's just making like, he's just been really inappropriate to us. Like we're, you know, trying to work.
He's gonna
like,
get
you know,
with that
and like,
too.
you know, just like so inappropriate and like, you know, fuck off. Like we're trying to do our job. And at the end of the day, he just sees us as objects. Well, to put it plain and simple.
You've often said, and it's completely true, that society loves to sexualize women.
Oh, well, they loved it. He loved it that day. So my colleagues and I went to my supervisor and we were like, look, this man is being completely inappropriate. Like, you need to report him. You know, you need to have our back in this situation. He was like...
And good for you for doing so, all of you.
Yeah, he was just so condescending and he almost found it amusing and... you know, told us that, you know, he said, like, girls, like, the situation wasn't serious enough to warrant a report. Now, he did write about it, but he didn't want to.
No, what a burden to have to write about it. Like,
yeah.
You know?
He had to document it just because, like, we were coming to him. But he just saw us as, like, a group of angry women, and I hated that. And, you know, as an individual and as a group, he just did not take us seriously, and I just felt so unequal to him.
Well, that is a moment where you definitely
it
feel
wouldn't
unequal.
have happened to our male counterpart. It wouldn't, you know, have happened to him. He didn't understand it, and that was the point. You know, like, he didn't understand how we felt because it had never happened to him before.
Well, it's very difficult for a man to understand the female experience, you know. And another thing I want to talk about that was brought up in this book, I mean, there's a few things I want to talk about, but is to never associate marriage with achievement. And this one really resonated with me because you and I both can speak to this. We were never people that fantasized about getting married and we wanted to get married. And I would hear teenage girls all the time saying, oh, I can't wait to get married. I can't wait to have a wedding.
Yeah,
and
it was a goal.
And my answer would be,
for
don't.
them, yeah.
Like, who are you trying to get married to? Like, you're not even in a relationship.
Yeah, definitely a goal for the young girl. Not something that should be celebrated so much as it is, you know. How about, like, what career would you like? And I know that's a very cliched thing to say, like, oh, you know, women should be focusing on their career and stuff like that, but it's true.
It is true.
You know,
become something outside of, like, you know, just
yourself.
You can exist outside of marriage.
Like, property. You know, I mean, women are still taking their husband's name.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
a great point.
A lot of women want to, like, keep the tradition, but you couldn't be handing yourself over as your dad's property and then your husband's property more than when you do that, you know, like, it speaks volumes. So traditional, I don't think so. You know, yeah. It's a property thing.
Well, Adichie says in this book as well that girls are taught to aspire to marriage whereas boys are not, which couldn't be more true. You know, you're taught from a young age that, you know, your biggest life achievement will be finding someone, and you're not complete until you find a man, you know. And I feel like this results in an uneven exchange in marriage, like you said, taking the name or changing their title, you know. I'm a miss instead of a Mrs.
Well, if you want to break it down, Tiana, like Mr., Mrs. So Mrs. is M or S. Okay. M or apostrophe S is Misters.
Oh, further so, like, affirming, like, property.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. That's so true. I mean, obviously I knew there was Mr. in Mrs.
There's Mr. in Mrs. So you're like, why like do we have Miss MS? And then why is that random R in there? Because it's Misters.
Wow.
You know?
My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, I did not come up with that. I seen a meme recently and I was like, oh my God, that is true. Well, nowadays we're not thinking too much of, like, women as property, but, you know, the tradition is still there. It's underlining.
Yeah.
But we do see a lot more women out there in the workplace, which is great.
Which obviously brings its own challenges. Like, even in terms of the language we use to describe a woman at work versus a man sometimes. Like, I am a supervisor at work, and sometimes I get thrown the label of like bossy and maybe too loud or energetic even. And those are labels you won't like, necessarily use to define a male boss.
No, and men will be like, yeah, he's a great
He's
boss.
assertive.
He's assertive. And yeah, exactly. All of this.
Yeah. Well,
great leader. Whereas you're like a drama queen and bossy and all of this. Yeah, I know.
Well, have you ever seen that video of Nicki Minaj and the pickle juice rant?
No.
Yeah.
Should I?
I didn't. Yes, definitely. Okay. So we have to watch this after.
Okay.
But basically, she is in this viral video where she's on set for, I believe, a music video, and she is talking about how she was labeled a diva because she walked in and it was just like a really unorganized shoot. There was craft services was a mess, and she's talking about how there's like pickles and pickle juice instead of like when she was on Lil Wayne's set, it was like beautifully catered food and so organized. And she talks about, I was labeled a diva because I walked on set and said, I'm not shooting. I'm not accepting this. And then she says, I walked on Lil Wayne's set and everyone's saying he's such a boss because he was demanding things for his shoot. And she goes like, had I accepted the pickle juice, like I would still be treated to that standard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was still called a diva for it.
Exactly.
But she was assertive.
But that's what she's saying.
Yeah.
She's like, I was called a diva for basically demanding the same standard.
Thing, the same standards, exactly. Wow, I need to watch
the
that
best
video.
rant. Yeah, we need to watch it immediately. And that always resonated with me. I remember seeing that a few years back and thinking, like, exactly. Like, it's okay to be a leader and assertive in your position at work.
Yeah, Nicki Minaj, she understood that, like, we as women are being judged for being women. And one of the things we get judged on is our likability.
Oh, definitely.
Like, do people...
We're taught that we need to be liked and smile and, where we should be focusing.
Oh, my God. How many times, like, I'm sure any woman listening to this now has been told by a guy, cheer up, like, smile.
Yeah. It's like, you smile. Give me a reason to smile.
Yeah, it comes down to inequality in the workplace. I was watching like a compilation of interviews that Scarlett Johansson did, and because she's in like all these Marvel movies.
Oh yeah, she would probably get it like really bad in those interviews.
Well, that's the thing. Like, she was in all these different interviews with her male co-workers, and they were asked all these existential questions about their character that they were playing. She, on the other hand, in the same interview, was asked, so Scarlett, these costumes that you wear in each scene, like, they're quite tight and they're like leather and latex. What underpants do you wear? Like, what underwear do you wear under that? And she's like, why do I get these like shitty underpants questions? And the guy next to me gets asked like all these amazing philosophical questions about how he prepared for his role, and just the same thing, like, whatever about like us being a diva, because that's another thing thrown at us. We're also sexualized, sexualized in the workplace. And it's more interesting to ask a woman about her underwear or, associate her with her body and sex than actually ask her intellectual questions or like see what's going on in her mind,
And that's so ironic because there's so much shame linked to female sexuality or women being sexual, which is so ironic that they're so sexualized. Like, we're meant to be sexy.
But when
in
they
America.
talk about having sex.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to be sexual. We don't expect
exactly. That. Yeah. Women are shamed for being sexual. Women are shamed for having many sexual partners. We need to focus on being liked.
Oh, yeah. Being liked is a big one. Likability.
Yeah,
that's talked about in this book as well that I was referencing.
Yeah, we're taught to be a lady, not talk about sex and all of this, Make sure you're likable.
Well, it goes back to that whole like, angry women, like women shouldn't be angry. It's like, so what if I am angry about a situation?
Well, that's the thing. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that I'm angry sometimes, that, that I was angry that day on the flight when basically like what happened wasn't a big deal, apparently.
Yeah. So, and of course you're going to be angry that you're getting catcalled on the street. And
yeah, of course. That's the thing. Guys are like, or society, whatever you like to call it, are like, girls, cheer up, like,
it's not that serious. Well, how about you walk through the street and fear for your life because someone's yelling at you? Honestly, this book I had just read, The 15 Suggestions, talks about being likable and how, you know, you even have to be nice to someone who's harming you, or, you know, like catcalling, like, don't say anything, don't talk back. Like,
yeah, almost protecting them.
yeah, exactly. And that's a big discussion in this book as well. And I think even if you define yourself as anti-feminist, which I do not understand why at this point, but I think you should give this book a read because it is very eye-opening.
Yeah, this book does have really amazing points for people who want to read about feminism.
Definitely. And I think everybody should. Like I said, I think being anti-feminist is not helping anyone, and I think you need to go back and redefine the term for yourself if that's how you're feeling.
Yeah, and speaking of that, men can be feminists too, and they don't actually know that.
We need allies as well, and being an ally does mean also being a feminist in terms of supporting equal rights. That's all it is.
That's what it boils down to. It's about equality. So, you know, both men and women can be feminists.
Yeah, and we want to make the world a better place for women and for people as a whole. So we talked a lot about so many different topics, but what would be your takeaway for today?
I think be assertive. That's so important. That's something that I try to take with me every day as a woman. You know, be assertive, stand up for myself, you know my worth and
know your worth. I
like
that.
You know, speak up more.
You don't have to be the second sex. I like that too when you said that.
Yeah. Don't be silenced.
My takeaway would be to break down the word feminist and as a woman, you know, apply the parts that resonate with you. There has to be something within the term and definition that you identify with, whether that's, you know, the ability to design your own life, or intersectional feminism, which is, you know, how overlapping identities like race, class, ethnicity, religion all impact the way you experience oppression. Or even the notion that, you know, a woman's body, a woman's right. Something as simple as that.
I love that takeaway.
Thanks, babe.
So that about wraps up today's episode. We'd love to hear your story on how you're living a non-traditional life as a woman. Follow us on Instagram at Shifting Her Experience and send us a DM to be featured as our next Woman of the Week.
Make sure you download, rate, and review our podcast and share it with your friends to spark a further discussion on this topic. And let us know if you're a feminist. See you next episode.
Bye!